What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Excited for today's episode. I'm in my car. I actually went up to Squaw Peak, which I know it's not called Squaw Peak anymore. It's like Kiv Peak or Kive Peak. I don't know which one, but so it's renamed. So I went up there, and that's where I'm at now. And I'm gonna record while I'm up here, and this is amazing. I'm gonna put some pictures up right now, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the episode. Just gonna be me today in the car, talking about the World Cup and talking about some of the previous episodes, some thoughts that I've had on some of those. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so to start, I wanted to talk about what I feel like is one of the most trending things about the World Cup right now. And I'm sure I'll get some backlash for this, or I don't know, maybe my following are going to agree. We'll see. If a following all agree, then it's not a big enough following, right? But the incident at the pundits table yesterday with Alexi Lalas and Zlatan. So for those of you who haven't seen or haven't heard about what happened, France came out yesterday and won 3-1 for Senegal. Good game. Mbappe got a brace. I believe it was Barcola got the second of the three, and Mbappe was first and third. So then after the game, Alexi was talking about France, and in the first half they were playing with arrogance, and I'm not going to quote directly just because I don't have it off the top of my head, and but he was talking about that, and they played with arrogance and maybe got a little bit too comfortable, and so he finished his point, and then Rebecca started talking, and Zlatan kind of cut Rebecca off, and he said it wasn't arrogance, it was confidence. And he said ignorant people will call it arrogance and smart people will call it confidence. And the what I've seen the most is people talking about Thierry Henry's reaction, because his eyes got just massive, just looked at the camera, huge, just shock. But what I actually found most entertaining was Alexi's reaction, because he fourth walled with the camera, and just looked dumbfounded. And similar to kind of my take on Miles Robinson that I shared in a previous episode. Most people who know me and know my thoughts on football and the state of soccer in the U.S. know that I also really don't like Alexi Lalas, and I think that I don't know, I think his opinions I don't always agree with. I actually hardly ever agree with his opinions on U.S. soccer and soccer around the world, and his takes on things like that. And yeah, I agreed more with Zlatan in this case, where I felt like maybe it was a little bit of overconfidence, right? But I don't see arrogance. And I think it was Thierry who frequently has said one of the biggest differences between arrogance and confidence is being able to back it up, right? And Mbappe, who I have feelings about Mbappe as well, right? I think Mbappe does have a bit of an arrogant side, but he always backs everything up, right? He backs everything up. He's one of the best players in the world. So that I wanted to get that out of the way first thing. Just the talk on that situation and that moment yesterday was awesome, hilarious, super uncomfortable, and all awesome at the same time. I'm excited for the games today. I'm excited to watch Portugal this morning. That's going to be a good game, I think. I hope. We'll see. It better be a good game. But yeah, and then Anue is stoked out of his mind for Friday just to watch the U.S. again after that first game. So, anyways, yeah, those are kind of my first thoughts about the World Cup. It's been good. It's been incredibly exciting so far. I have enjoyed it very much. I've watched most of the games. The only games I haven't watched, I didn't watch Austria Jordan last night, which I went and watched the highlights. Kind of bummed I didn't watch that game. That first Austrian goal was unreal. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was unreal, just an absolute screamer. So I didn't watch that one, and then it was one of the late games that started at it started at 10 in Utah, and I think I watched the first half. The Sweden game, I think I watched 60 or 70 minutes. That might have been it, and then went to bed. But again, yeah, this World Cup has been just beyond exciting to me. I don't remember the last time I was this invested in a group stage for everyone. Right? Usually I'll watch the U.S., I'll watch England, I'll watch Spain and Brazil, and those are the ones that I like to watch the most. But I've watched as many of the group games as I can this year, and it's been really, really cool, really exciting. So yeah, those are my thoughts to this point. I hope that after the first round of the group stage that it maintains this excitement and this level of fun, beautiful football. I don't feel like there have been. I don't think there have been any like truly boring games at this point, which I feel like in previous World Cups that typically happens in the group stage. Like you get a really exciting game, and then you get like two or three kind of boring games in the group stage. And this year, I feel like maybe the most boring one I've watched so far was Switzerland, but it was still like it was an exciting game to watch, if that makes sense. And even like it wasn't a crazy score line. I've seen conflicting opinions on that where a lot of people were like, "Oh, that was a waste of time." I think it was a fun game to watch. There was a lot of high energy, and yeah, so I've enjoyed the group stage. I think this has been a great World Cup. I've been really pleased with how it's gone, and there are a lot of political things going on, and people have opinions on all of that, and the influence of politics in the World Cup, and it's being held in the U.S. Like what was not going to happen, right? Like having it held here, like something was going to happen, and there have been issues, and there have been visa issues and travel issues, and it makes sense. I mean, it should, like, it's messed up, right? It's terrible that those things are happening, but with it being in the U.S. and the amount of conflict that we are constantly in, it makes sense that it would be going on during the World Cup. So, yeah, I've been excited. I've been enjoying it. Anue has been enjoying it. He stayed up later than his bedtime last night to watch the Argentina game, which was awesome, and he loved that. Messi's just unreal. That was amazing to watch. And one of the things I liked was them showing, I can't remember the coach's name off the top of my head now, but them showing his reactions every time Messi scored. He just didn't react. Like, yeah, he's going to do that. He's going to do GOAT things. Right? That's just what he's going to do. So that was awesome. That was fun. Yeah, so today I wanted to talk for a few minutes about the World Cup, but I wanted to also talk about some of the things from previous episodes and kind of combine those a little bit. I did want to share a quote also with the Alexi Lalas stuff that I forgot about, and this I think is where I might get a little stick from people, right? But I saw a quote last night, and I was on Instagram, I think, and the first page of this Instagram post was like critical opinions or thoughts that might offend you, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll check it out. One of them, it was towards the end, so going through all these quotes, and then one of the last ones says, "We have become a society where common sense has to be like covered, like common sense has to be put down so that stupidity doesn't get offended." And that, like, it's so true. It's so true, because common sense, one of the things I've heard over the last decade, right, is common sense is not so common anymore. And that's so true now. And I feel like that was kind of apparent yesterday. So, like I've said a couple of times, I want to talk about a few of my previous episodes and kind of how the podcast is shifting from what I thought it was going to be originally, and more of what I'm starting to go into, and kind of the direction that I'm trying to take with it, and also tie all of that into the World Cup. So what I wanted to start with was the quote from Peyton Pemberton from my first in person, or not in person, my first guest appearance on the podcast. He shared with us the quote, the motto for his family of "Do good and be really good at what you do," and I really like that, and I've thought about that a lot in terms of the World Cup. Do good and be really good at what you do. Every single player in the World Cup, there's 26 players allowed on each roster, and those are the 26 best players as per decided by the coach, typically, right? But those are 26 of the best, we'll say that, because I have my opinions on like the national team too, which I've talked about. But 26 of the best men's football players, footballers in each of their respective countries. And they don't just get there by chance, right? They get there by being really good at what they do. And there's always backstories with footballers, and there's the footballers that like to go and they party, and they aren't serious about their job, right? But I mean, no one gets into professional football strictly on talent alone. It's just not enough. It's not enough. There has to be some kind of a work ethic to get to that level. So, do good and be really good at what you do. That to me has been super evident in this World Cup, that these guys are just they're professionals. They work so hard. One of the other things that I wanted to discuss was something from my episode with Wyatt Burrows. That was the second episode, second guest episode, and he talked a little bit, and I think it was towards the beginning of the episode. So if you want to go back and check it out, you won't have to go through the whole episode. But if you don't want to, if you want to, great, right? More listens for me, that would be awesome. And Wyatt's episode was great, but I think it was towards the beginning we were talking about how these professionals that we see in a World Cup and at professional games and Champions League and Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, all these, the professionals, right? They're professionals. We place them on this pedestal of sorts where it's almost like they're not real, like they're not human, right? They are so much better than us at this game, right? That we all play or we all coach or we all love. That it seems like there's just this gap in difference as far as like humanity. And Wyatt mentioned that, and I really appreciated that, and I wanted to touch just for a second, because it's hard to talk about for me, is Christian Eriksen. And just prior to the World Cup, he suffered another cardiac arrest on the pitch. And for those of you who don't know, Christian Eriksen in the Euros in 2020 Euros, I believe, which was actually played in 2021. In the Euros, Denmark was playing, and Christian was waiting for a throw-in, and the guy threw the ball to him, and it hit his foot, and then Christian just collapsed. And I was watching that game live, and it was really scary. It was so that happened in like 2020, 2021, and then just prior to the World Cup, it happened again. And the first time it was absolutely terrifying. They had to like resuscitate him on the field and all of this stuff. This most recent time, he was able to walk off the field himself, and it was not quite as intense. But for me, it was just as scary because that's the second time that something's happened. So a scary experience to witness for sure. But all of these players have other things going on in their lives outside of the game. Christian Eriksen has a heart condition and a thing in his chest that is designed to resuscitate him if his heart stops during a match. Like that to me is an out of this world commitment to your passion, right? And that's kind of a segue into the third thing. So what Peyton talked about, being really good at what you do, right? It's Christian Eriksen working and working and working and being really good at what he does. And then Wyatt's, being a human being, having a life outside off of the pitch and these things that he's worried about. And then the third guest that I had was Logan. And Logan talked a lot about inner alignment and finding a passion and making sure that you go all in. Right? He talked about finding joy in the journey a lot. And that to me, again, the Christian Eriksen example, but every professional footballer, I think one of the things that is brought up a lot that I hear about that's brought up a lot is there's a certain aspect to being a professional athlete and a professional footballer in general, or specifically, that you see them play how they played when they were kids. And there's a joy, and that's why they've continued to play, right? Because they remember what it was like when they played as a kid. And they remember that it's a game and it's something that is there to have joy in, to play with joy. And when you play with joy, you typically tend to play better, right? Because you're more relaxed and you're playing with more freedom. So yeah, those are three things just from each of the other episodes with guests that I've had on that I have found have been just wildly evident to me in this World Cup, and I love that. I love it so much. It's been so cool to see all the fans from countries around the world, and it's been really fun to see not only fans from around the world experiencing the U.S., but the U.S. getting to experience all these other cultures too. I saw a video of Scotland fans singing at Fenway Park, and that was awesome. I saw videos of the Norwegian fans last night, and they were rowing a longboat up an escalator. Right? So they were sitting on. Didn't have a longboat, but they were pretending to row a longboat up this escalator, and then they did it in the stands, and it just all these cultures that that are getting to experience the U.S. and that people in the U.S. who may not have experienced other cultures before are getting the chance to do now. It's just is awesome. And that's been really, really cool to see. So yeah, I think those were the biggest things that I wanted to talk about today. And like I said, it'd be a shorter episode, but it's just me just chilling in my car up at Squaw Peak or Tiv Peak, or again, however it's pronounced now. But yeah, I'm excited for the World Cup. Still excited for the World Cup. I think that'll be something that I just never lose that passion for. So I'm gonna cut it short here because I got to get home for the Portugal game, and I know I'll be watching this post that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to. I have another few guests that are lined up, and I'm just now realizing that at the beginning I didn't even actually talk about what I said I was going to talk about, kind of the transition of the show. So I'll do that real quick. When I first started this podcast, when I first restarted the podcast, because I had a podcast prior when we were in Arizona, was when I started the Saudad podcast, and it was focused way more on family and our family specifically, and just little updates and stuff like that. And it was just something fun to do. Now I'm looking at it more as a more professional podcast and really finding a niche. And so with that being said, when I first started thinking about restarting this podcast, Marissa and I were talking, and I wanted the focus to be all on youth athletes who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and helping them to gain more exposure and opportunities to play sports in college. So that was kind of how it started. And then what I've noticed that it's shifted into, and I like it a lot. I like a lot what it's shifting into, is more of a podcast where we discuss how you balance your faith and athletics, and having those two things balance with each other rather than forcing each other one way or the other. And I think that's one of the things that I really liked about Wyatt's podcast, especially too, in bringing up that, all of these footballers are people off the pitch. And it's been really, really cool to see, not just in football, in American football and basketball, in sports in general all over the world over the last few years. I feel like there's been this surge of athletes professing their faith outwardly, being very outspoken about their faith. And that has been really, really cool for me to see. And I think that's something that will help this podcast. And in turn, my goal with the podcast is for this to help kids. Right? And I want kids to be able to feel like they can balance their faith and balance their athletics. And so that's kind of where the podcast is starting to go. And obviously there will be episodes that focus on different things and all of that. And one of my next guests, we're trying to nail down a time that works for both of us. And we're actually still waiting on our stuff to get here from California. We still just have like what we brought in the Tahoe. So we're waiting on that. But one of my guests I'm waiting on, I'm really, really excited for. And we're figuring out a time, and he has a ton of experience in collegiate athletics. He was a professional athlete and really, really big advocate for mental health right now. And so that's going to be a really big focus as well with the podcast, is balancing faith, athletics, and mental health. And so I'm really looking forward to kind of how that's segueing and shifting not shifting out of the original thoughts, but expanding. I think there's going to be an expansion and also a refocus. And so I'm really excited for that. I think being in Utah is going to be huge for that, because I can talk about my faith, being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a little bit more bluntly on these episodes. And even when I have guests, right, they know my religious affiliation, and I typically know theirs, and it's been really cool. So it's going to be really cool to see where it goes. So for this week, really excited for the World Cup to keep going. Looking forward to another guest video, hopefully next week. That's another thing. I think originally I had said I was going to try and have a young athlete and a coach or an adult somewhere in the athletics realm once a month each. I'm getting enough interest that it's probably eventually just going to be guests every week, which is awesome to me. And then I'll throw in one of these little episodes just of me here and there. And so I'm really excited for that too. And I appreciate the interest and the interest in wanting to be on the show. I have a form. If any of you listening want to be on the show, please send me a message. I have a form I'll send to you, and we can get that filled out and get a show scheduled with you. But I've had people that have just reached out, and I have a lot, and I've been really, really excited by that, and hope that we can get some more traction with that and really start helping some youth and some kids with finding balance and all this. But at the same time, one of the things I think we talked about with Logan was the advice that I'm getting from some of these people. It's not just for youth, right? It's for anyone that wants to listen, anyone that wants to hear, and that's been really cool for me as well to be able to share experiences and share advice and wisdom on this podcast, and not coming from me, right? They're coming from the guest speakers and the conversations that we have, and just it's been really cool. So, anyways, with all that being said, it's starting to get hot in my car. I am up on top of a mountain, and that sun is toasty. So, I will see you guys next week, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.